week of the world. I hope not.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mark Goldop, Sky Hopper, here for the Sports Insanity Network. It's Sunday, so we are here for Sunday Sideline Report, and I am here with the greatest color commentary man in the business, Mike the Pun Master Rifkin. Mike, good morning.
Good.
Have you recovered from trivia night last night?
I'm still tired, but I've recovered. Well, how are you? How are you feeling after hosting that?
It was fun, it's definitely fun for those of you who are joining us on this cold Sunday morning in New York. Watch for notes on the podcast, because when we're doing this live, you are welcome to join. And if you answer along with our participants, you could win a random autograph from Halpern Cards and Collectibles LLC. But enough of that. It's Sunday. Mike, what do we have on tap?
We got a lot of good football action we'll talk about. We'll talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson too. Probably not playing today. That hasn't been made official, but we're pretty much close to knowing he's out. But we start where most people want to start today. We start talking about the Commanders because this news, even on their bye week, dropped on Thursday. And this is from Congress, that Washington Commanders owner Daniel Snyder permitted and participated in the team's longtime toxic work culture and obstructed a 14-month congressional inquiry by dodging a subpoena, working to dissuade and intimidate witnesses from cooperating, including more than 100 times of testimony that he could not recall answers to basic questions. This is from the House Oversight Committee from the House of Representatives. So let's take a chunk. Let's take the opening first, and then we could go down the rabbit hole. We know about the Washington Commanders football team, Redskins, whatever you want to call them. We know about the toxic workplace environment from things we've read and this and that. So let's just start with the opening remarks there, Mark. And I like that, opening remarks there, Mark. Let's just start with he permitted and participated within this culture. Your initial thoughts there, and then we could dive into the rest.
Not really surprised, and that's really a sad thing to say. We have known for years now there's been problems within the Redskin football team Commanders organization. It doesn't just start when they became the Commanders. This has been going on for a few years now. And it's also it is the Commanders are now linked to releasing the email that got John Gruden fired. So, I would like to know what they were doing with access to that, but whatever. Even whatever, it is what it is. This is a disgrace and has to be dealt with fast. Drawing it out is going to do just what the Commanders and the organization want, is just give them attention. Because let's face it, nobody gives a flying monkey about them at all. It's disgusting what the allegations and everything, and I know you're going to go into a little bit more, but as an owner, now I don't say what Robert Kraft did was any better, but it's not as toxic as this.
Jim Irsay was right when he said at the owners' meetings earlier this year that it's time to move on from Dan Snyder, because Dan Snyder is a black eye for the league. He is a sore spot for the league because as much as we want to say Roger Goodell has all the power, the people who enable Roger Goodell to have the power are the owners. They're the ones who pay him and say whatever you want. But the problem with Dan Snyder is the transparency. We haven't heard anything on the league investigation. We haven't heard a lot in other terms, but we've heard more from Congress than we've heard from the NFL on this. And to me, that's the problem.
And I don't
the transparency.
And that is the big issue. When you look at what the NFL has investigated over the last, let's just make it easy, the last 10 years, it's mostly been players and misconduct by players or coaches. Okay, you're doing your internal job. Why is there no word, especially with it coming out, they already had a congressional meeting. Why has Goodell or the NFL not opened a full investigation that we at least would know about? Maybe they're running a double secret investigation we don't know about, but there has been no comment for the NFL on what's going on, and it's a problem and a shock.
So Carolyn Maloney, who chairs the committee, said, and I quote, "The NFL knew about it and they took no responsibility," close quote. She told ESPN, this is where I'm reading this article from, I quote, "NFL officials were acting like they were doing something. Then they turn around and fix it so she can't talk." She goes on to say, and I quote, "The NFL chose to bury Ms. Wilkinson's findings and whitewash the misconduct it uncovered." The committee's report says, going back, rather than seek real accountability, the NFL aligned its legal interests with Mr. Snyder's, failed to curtail his abusive tactics, and buried the investigation's findings, close quote. If this second part is true, and the NFL knew and they were burying this under the rug, not only should Dan Snyder be gone, Roger Goodell should be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are the kinds of things that you as an individual can never recover from.
Nope.
I don't care that he was trying to protect his league. I don't care if he was trying to protect the interests of the fans, but we deserve to know what happened. There is no transparency from the NFL. But more important than that, these women have a right to be treated fairly. They have a right to be treated equally. And what Dan Snyder just did, in whatever part of this report you want to read, it's disgusting. And quite frankly, the league is better than this. But Roger Goodell, if you buried it, you're going to have to get buried along with it.
And that's that's where it should fall. I mean, we've watched Goodell do various things over the last few years. I mean, I think every person who is a dead hard football fan, no matter what team they are, has hatred for Robert Goodell for something. For me, it's what he did to Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas when it was proven by Texas that he did nothing, that the woman was coming after him, but he got a 6-game suspension. The way the Robert Kraft thing was handled, if it was a player, it would have been so much different. So I think it's about time that they start holding Roger Goodell a little bit, I guess the word, responsible for the way the league is becoming, because you're the commissioner. You're supposed to keep it in line. And it's time to 86 him the right way.
I viewed this as reading this really for the second time. There's a difference here between the owners and how they get treated, and however you want to call it, because there's this, the Kraft thing, which, I mean, it is what it is. It's gross, but there have been other. Jim Irsay, I believe, had a DUI at one point, but that that doesn't accuse to this. And then there's the way the players get treated, and I could think of one name right away. I don't want to get to the politics of it, but Colin Kaepernick's not in the league, not because he can't play, but because he tried to take a stand for what he believed was right. Whether you disagree with it or not, they were easy to blackball him. They were easy to blackball Ray Rice. Now, different situation, that's on video of him punching his wife in the face, but Kareem Hunt kicked a woman on a hotel video and he got a second chance. So it's just, there's a different set of circumstances for the players than there are the owners, and it's just not right.
And that's something that has to be a featured standpoint. And hopefully we can get, when I say a cleaner league, less disturbing news reports in a season.
Yeah, so some other key elements or key revelations. Snyder said to investigators he apologized for workplace misconduct, but the investigators said he continued to blame others around him and minimized the experience of more than 100 current and former employees. Under oath, Snyder admitted to using private investigators, but Snyder claimed to be unaware whom his investigators approached and did not remember having conversations with individuals. You're right on the John Gruden thing. There's a lot here, and there's a lot to unpack in all of this. But I just think the easiest solution would be one of two things. One, Dan Snyder has to sell the Commanders, or two, the NFL has to force him into selling the Commanders, which I don't think the league wants to do, but they're going to have to, at some point, figure this out sooner rather than later.
It's the same situation like it is for the like it was for the Los Angeles Dodgers when the MLB had to step in. It's time for the NFL to step in. And look, there's still fans for that team. I don't know how, but there are still fans for that team, and they deserve to be able to see their team play without having to deal with controversy around it. So let's get it done, get it cleaned up, and, move on.
Yeah, we can move on, but, it's just...
Not meaning us, meaning the NFL.
Well, but I mean, everyone would benefit. The fans would benefit. The workplace would benefit for sure. But it's just, in the era we live in 2022, the fact that this guy, through everything we've known, still has all of this power around the league. I still remember a couple of months ago, the ESPN report that dropped that said, oh, if they try to force him out, he has all of this dirt on other owners. If I was another owner, I was like, bring it. Let's see what you got, because you've got nothing to the level we have on you. But so that's the latest in the whole Dan Snyder fiasco in the NFL. But move on. We'll wait to see if there's more that comes out from this, because if you read the report, there's a lot of back and forth from congressional people, and that's not worth the time, because we're not political experts, at least not on this show. Anyway, let's dive into Thursday night, which saw the Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland do the most Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland thing.
Be up 13 points and give it away again.
Be up 13 points in the fourth quarter with less than 5 minutes to go, and they lose the game 17-16 to a guy in Baker Mayfield who had 2 days to learn
To
the
learn
playbook. So
a handful of plays, basically.
yeah, so the Rams beat the Raiders 17-16. Derek Carr, 11 of 20, 137 yards, 2 picks. Josh Jacobs, another solid game, 99 yards and a touchdown. Flip side at the Rams, Baker Mayfield, 22-35, 230 yards and a touchdown. Cam Akers, 12 carries, 42 yards and a touchdown. And with 10 seconds left, Baker Mayfield hit Van Jefferson for a game-winning touchdown.
And that's Baker Mayfield-esque right there.
We you know what, let's start with the Baker side of this because that's a good story, and then we could get into shredding the Raiders. Or as Chris Berman says, the Raiders. Baker Mayfield asked for his release from Carolina. It was granted. The Rams picked him up on waivers. And listen, for Baker Mayfield, this is an opportunity over these next, I'm going to include this game, the next 4 games, to show the Rams and the rest of the NFL what you've got. Because the perception of you right now really isn't that good.
Especially going from Cleveland to Carolina, and you couldn't even win there or even get the respect of your teammates really there, to the fact that Robbie Anderson left to go to Arizona pretty much after you showed up. And then you ask for your outright release, and now you head over to the St. Louis Rams of Los Angeles, and God bless you. And he didn't play lights out, but he didn't play horribly either. And like Mike said, this is the time for Baker to show off what he can do in the last quarter of the season, the last 5 games. And let's say Baker goes 4-1 in those 5 games and has great talent. Yeah, it's going to give teams a chance to take a look at him in the offseason to see that he's healthy from that shoulder injury. And also, depending on what happens with Matt Stafford, could they retain the both of them and tell them, look, here's what it's going to be. Stafford's our starter. Baker, you're our backup. But we are not committed to him being our starter throughout the season. If he has a rough one, we'll bring you in. That's an option for the Rams, and probably can do it cheaper than other ways.
And we've seen how important the backup quarterback position is over the years when it comes to guys who get hurt, And the other part is, like, Matt Stafford's a guy mid-30s, but he's always been a guy who wants to have a Herculean effort, play hard with the style of play he has. But at his age, I'm starting to wonder now. I know he signed a new contract in the offseason. I wonder if retirement's an option,
Depends on what he shows us in these 5 games. I mean,
no, I'm talking Stafford, not Baker.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I'm saying, because if Stafford retires and that money comes off the books or however it works with the dead cap, Baker could slot right into being the Rams quarterback.
And he's getting it, like I said, he's getting that chance to show them in the next 5 games. If Stafford, I mean, the exact injury with Matt Stafford is actually just kind of weird, but it's a Stafford-esque injury, so it's unfortunate. But Matt Stafford, and I've said this about many players as they get in, has nothing left to prove. He's proven that he's is an elite NFL quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been the MVP of that Super Bowl, and he's played in the league for 14 plus years, and has always been recognized as a dominant player. Hang him up and go out now.
Then if you go out, there's definitely a case to be made for Stafford when you're talking Canton and the Hall thing. I'm not saying he's definitive. I'm saying there's a case. You're going at, no matter when he goes out, he's going out as the greatest Detroit Lions quarterback of all time.
Absolutely.
So there's that going for him as well. So we'll see what happens with Stafford. But for Baker, for me, like I've said this on Wishbone and I've said this in conversation, there was one team I wish that had picked up Baker Mayfield, and one team only. The Indianapolis Colts.
Would have made sense.
Because it's similar thing to what you said about Stafford, I could say for Matt Ryan.
Yeah, but Ryan's healthy and playing.
No, outside of the injury, he's healthy.
Okay.
We know what Matt Ryan is, but where are you going if you're the Colts?
Nowhere, but that's okay.
But I'm just thinking of Baker Mayfield and Jeff Saturday. The two most, the most random head coach and the most random late season quarterback pickup you could have, and you're trying to make that mesh. Because let's face it, Matt Ryan's not the long-term answer in Indianapolis, but Baker Mayfield has a potential to be. But they didn't do it. The Rams did it. And Baker Mayfield found a way to win a game where
yet again
that nobody thought the Rams could win, because not because of Baker, but because of the situation at hand.
Right. So
like even if they lose that game 16-10, I think people would be like, they kept it close.
Yep.
With all the injuries.
Baker should have 3 suitors at the end of the season. One being the Rams, as he's there. One should be, like Mike said, the Indianapolis Colts. And the other one, like I'm going to say, should be the New York Jets. That's where I could see him being with the 3 teams, with one of those 3 teams next year.
I'd stay in-house too. I'll throw the Giants out there. I don't know if they could afford it. I don't know, how that would work, but I'm going to throw the Giants out there. I throw one other out there. I mean, I threw Detroit out on Wishbone, but that was a conversation while Goff's playing well, but he'd be cheaper than Goff is the argument.
Yes.
So I'll leave Detroit in there. The one other team I'll throw it out there, and no one's going to listen, the team he beat, the Raiders. I mean, this isn't all on Derek Carr, but at some point it's just
you got to hold
Detroit. You got to move on.
Right. You have to hold somebody accountable, and that's going to be the leader of your team, and that's the quarterback.
Well, there's that, and they can't fire another head coach who, when they can't afford it, apparently.
No.
But another brutal loss in a season of brutal losses for the Raiders.
I don't think David Carr is the answer in Los Angeles with the Raiders. The guy does have some brilliance in him when I've seen him play and whatnot. And watching him this season, he hasn't had a horrible season. He was given targets to help him improve. And the thing is, it's just that they haven't improved. They're still the same team they were last year. And can you fault that mostly on the defense? Yeah, the defense has been very soft. But you can't blame Devontae Adams. He's done what he's been asked to do since coming in. Josh Jacobs has turned it up in the second half. He was a little quiet in the first half, but that was due to knee injury. I don't think David Carr is the right quarterback in that system. And like you said, Mike, there's could get an outright release and Baker could slide in there. David Carr needs to be in a system that not only focuses passing, but focuses rushing as much and not one over the other. It has to be a balanced offensive run and pass game. If he's forced to throw the ball more, he's more likely to lose. He's turning out like Dak Prescott. The less he has to throw and the more they can use the running game, the better he is.
I'm at the point with Derek Carr, and I have a ton of respect for the way he plays and how he's gone about his business. A couple of weeks ago, he was tearing up at the press conference, talking about playing hard and how much he loves this team and this organization. That's great, and that's awesome. But a lot of people thought the AFC West was the best division in football coming in. With every move that all these teams made outside of the Chiefs, someone was going to compete with the Chiefs. Nobody's competing with the Chiefs. And the blame has to go everywhere. So if the Raiders can't fire Josh McDaniels because Mark Davis, quote unquote, can't afford to pay another coach who he fires, or he can't afford to pay a third head coach, well, someone else is going to have to take the blame. That's probably Derek Carr.
And like we said, sorry, go ahead.
You go to Denver, Nathaniel Hackett's probably ousted after this year with the Broncos country let's ride quarterback guy and his issues. And the Los Angeles Chargers, like, I could see them moving on from Brandon Staley if they miss the playoffs. But at least that job has some upside with it. With the Raiders, I don't know what the upside is because I've got Devontae Adams, Renfro, who's been hurt, Waller's been hurt. So I have those three guys to catch passes. Josh Jacobs has been a stud this year, but I believe he's a free agent, and I don't think I don't know if they'll franchise him or not. So the defense hasn't been what you'd hoped it would be. All their mistakes come at the worst possible times. Like, the difference in this game was right before halftime when Carr throws the pick in the end zone.
Right.
Like, you score there, it's 19-17 to finish out or it's 19-10 or whatever it's going to be because you're assured 3 points. But there's a part of me that believes Derek Carr won't be the Raider quarterback next year. And there's a part of me that believes the guy they go sign for 1 year, and it's going to anger people, Tom Brady. Tom Brady played for McDaniels in New England.
Hey, the only reason
and he's going to keep playing. He's going somewhere.
The only reason I'm not kicking you out of the room for that comment is because it's probably true. We try not to talk about Brady too much in here, as we all know Brady is what he is. I don't respect what is happening with his family and the family life, but that's another story for another time. Tom Brady is now the designated hitter that can go anywhere for any type of money and make an impact on any team. And it would be funny, if he went to the Raiders. I have already heard rumors, and I told Mike this morning that rumors are he used to return to New England for 1 year to help bring Mac Jones along. I don't think this is going to be the end of Tom Brady, even though we're all hoping for it, because we're just all sick of him. But the Raiders are definitely one spot that it could happen.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the Raiders, and we'll see what happens with Baker and the Rams going forward. But the Rams pick up a win. A really bad loss for the Raiders, mainly for playoff purposes.
Right.
So that happened. All right, on to today's action. One of the more interesting games because we have a rivalry game. Ravens in Pittsburgh taking on the Steelers. Minus Lamar Jackson. I believe they said it's a PCL sprain. So usually it's 1 to 3 weeks. Adam Schefter reported this late last night. He may not play until Christmas Eve, so he may just miss 2 weeks, which kinds of injuries, they've said it's 1 to 3. So
yeah, and it's a godsend it was just a sprain.
Yeah. Well, here comes the multi-million-dollar question, and it's going to be, if you're the Ravens, this is the second straight year Lamar's gotten banged up. Are you concerned when you're throwing him a long-term deal?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
That's it. No, nothing else on that. You just want to throw it away.
Yeah.
All right, I'll say this. I think this should open up the Ravens' eyes a little bit into getting more talent on the outside for Lamar. I think that would be beneficial.
All right. Lamar Jackson. Let's call him what he is. Not since Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham has there been a more dynamic football player to step on the football field. My problem with Lamar Jackson always has been that he can't sling the ball very well. He's got great vision with running the ball. It probably, I might get a little bit of fan emails because this is going to, I think he has better vision than Michael Vick in running the ball on the field. Michael Vick was the much better passer. That's pretty much said. I think what Lamar Jackson needs to do in the offseason is work on his throwing only. Forget about running plays. You can work on your legs and keep them healthy. Yeah, sure. Work on throwing passes. If you have a problem, I'm available here in New York at 44 years old with a messed up spine. I'll teach you how to throw in the NFL. And I'll do it for a fraction of the amount of money most of these other guys charge you.
I'll just say that, I'm going to reiterate it. I think that they just need to get him weapons. He's got Mark Andrews, and then I don't know.
He had Hollywood Brown. He had Andrews. Andrews was the leading receiver last year, and Hollywood Brown had games, but the excitement and what you thought he was going to bring there was so few and far between. And since being with Arizona, yes, he was injured for 2 weeks. He's had 300-yard games already and multiple touchdowns per game. So,
but I'll say this on Hollywood, and then we can. He had a lot of drops as well in Baltimore. He had a ton of drops. He reunites with Kyler Murray, a guy he knows really well because they played together at Oklahoma. So I think with what I'm saying is they have a guy like Rashad Bateman, who pretty good possession guy. He's done for the year. So it's that Andrews, and it's a cast of different running backs and tight ends. And the Ravens play this old style of football. They really do. We're going to punch in the mouth, run the ball, and we're going to take our chances with these short passes. They kind of play the same offense as you probably saw in the Army-Navy game yesterday.
What a game, by the way.
So how about we get Lamar some weapons and we see what he's really got. The Eagles for Jalen Hurts. We'll talk about the Eagles in a few minutes, but they went out and got him A.J. Brown. And that's totally transcended this offense. The Dolphins got Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill. It's transcended the offense. I'm not even going to go into Patrick Mahomes because he's just a freak. Josh Allen. People were critical of Josh Allen. The Bills went and got him Stephon Diggs. and it's changed who Josh Allen is. Get Lamar a number one receiver. This isn't difficult.
See, what they tried doing with Dez Bryant, I thought was an interesting idea. But it looked like Dez Bryant didn't want to be there. And I think Dez Bryant could have been a number 2 receiver at that point coming back again. And I was disappointed because, look, nobody loved Dez Bryant more than myself. And I think the Baltimore Ravens have tried giving him weapons. Maybe they haven't given him enough. They have not given him a solid number 1 running back because he can run the ball. They need to get him a number 2 and a number 3 receiver right now, at least in the next year. Whether you do it through free agency, trade, or draft, get him 2 more weapons, and that Raven defense will be back where it was when it was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's I think you're right there. So get Lamar weapons. You're going to have to pay him as well, but wait and see. So see if we can get for Lamar. So what we have some great games today that we'll get to. Let's start with the NFCs. We have the Eagles and the aforementioned Eagles taking on the New York Giants, who are starting to struggle a little bit here, Mark.
Yeah, we've noticed the Giants, shout out to Bill Murphy and his losing team, as they slowly are declining. You watch the Giants from the beginning of this year, and the games they won wasn't because of brilliant offense or anything. The games they won was just pure luck in the first half. A bunch of those games they should have lost, but hey, luck plays its way in football, and it did the Giants good. But the Giants really haven't beaten a top tier team. They've lost twice to Dallas, and that's not a surprise. The Giants are not a playoff team with Daniel Jones as the quarterback. Their defense is getting there. They need a cornerback, and they need another linebacker, and that defense is going to be very solid. I expect the Giants, with the injuries that are now piling up, as we see that Saquon Barkley is a game time decision today. I think the Giants are not in tank mode, but they're in, we're just going to play, and we're not going to risk people getting hurt or whatnot. I think their chances for the playoffs now are less than 20%.
I think they get slimmer just because of the amount of guys who aren't playing, and I think that's finally catching up to them. They need, like, we could talk about Daniel Jones, and I don't think he's a long-term quarterback. You just said you don't think he's a long-term quarterback. They need receivers. They need receivers. Like, Kenny Golladay has been gone a day since he signed his contract.
The guy gets and I don't understand. Maybe something was in the news and I miss it. You're paying a guy an average of almost $19 million a year to get one target a game. I don't get it.
He's pissed someone off. Like,
but it's still
I don't know what
you're paying out. If you're not going to use him, release him, let the dead money go, and just move on from him. It's a cancel.
I think that's their plan in the offseason, but unless they can find some team that'll trade for him and make it a cap for cap move, or
he is gonna get a worse pick than what Amari Cooper was traded for in Dallas.
See, I don't think they'd care about where the pick is. I think they just want to dump the guy. So,
It's a ridiculous thing that's happening with him there.
oh yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, he's going to be gone a day. But
And when they lost, when Tooney went to KC, and then you had Sterling Shepard go down, and then you had Darius Slayton with a little bit of injury. No, they go to Richie James. What? It makes no sense to me. So
Richie James is also the cousin of Rick James.
Hey, he's got the hair for it too.
But
Bill,
you're
here's
right.
your next vlog. Here's your next blog, Bill. Why aren't they using Kenny Galladay?
They've relied heavily on Saquon, and he's had a really good year.
Yes, he has.
You said 50-50 game time decision today. We have not heard anything yet, but
no, not yet.
I will say this: from what I've seen through 13-ish weeks, I have a lot of faith in Joe Shane and Brian Dable to turn this ship around.
Okay.
Because let's be realistic. I didn't think the Giants would win 7 games this year. I thought they'd be bad.
Neither did I at all.
So they're already trending upward. Flip side, Philly can clinch a playoff berth today with either a win or a tie. Which, by the way, NFL, dump the ties.
Yes.
Or a Niners and Seahawks loss. The Niners and the Seahawks have to lose if Philly loses to get Philly into the playoffs, which is almost inevitable. But
breaking news off of ESPN as of right now, the decision to play Saquon Barkley has not been made. So
so they're probably going to put them out.
They're going to wait. They're going to wait
warm ups and
last minute notice. It'll be because they have to make all players who are playing or not playing made notice by noon. So we'll see in an hour if Barkley's going to play.
And so we're waiting on Barkley news. But if the Eagles win, they're in the playoffs. Speaking of winning, neither team can clinch a playoff spot today. But we got an AFC East battle with the Jets going into Buffalo playing the Bills.
It's kind of conundrum here in New York with Giants Philadelphia game on Channel 5 and the Buffalo Jet game on 2. I mean, it's 2 great games, and it's a great thing about having picture-in-picture. But I am surprised that both teams are playing at 1:00.
Well, so when they were flexing the Sunday night game, and they flexed the Broncos Chiefs out, they wanted this game NBC. CBS and Fox, they both have the rights to protect one game. This was the game CBS protected.
It's going to be a good game. I'm not saying it's going to be 10-3, whatever. And I'm not saying it's going to be 56-42. If anybody who watches us and follows us or NFC East fans know that the Giants and the Eagles have been a battle for over 40 years. And yeah, there have been some blowouts and there have been some problems, but the games themselves have always been good and watchable. Not to take away from what's going to happen in New York as well with the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. It's another division game, and the Jets aren't the Punch and Judy team they were. The Jets are something. So it's like 2 really prime games that one should have been moved to 4:00 at least.
That I can't argue about because I don't know how that works. I just know how the flexing for the prime time works.
No, understood. I'm just saying if you want to have picture-in-picture, it kind of sucks.
Well, yeah. Or take yourself out for an adult beverage there'll be multiple TVs at the bar that will have both games on.
And well, that would work, but I'd have to report that I have COVID upon walking in with my mask on. So I don't think I'd be welcome.
I thought you were. I'm talking about people in general. He's not talking about.
Oh, okay. I would have been on it. I'd be the honest one. Everybody, I have COVID, so give me this side of the bar.
I was talking in general. You just wanted to you.
No.
But look, the Jets won the first meeting, tight game. They
Yeah,
capitalized on a couple of Josh Allen interceptions. The
and
Bills.
that's why these. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No. The Bills are looking for a little bit of payback. They're down Von Miller for the rest of the year. That came out the other day. He tore an ACL.
That was some disappointing news, considering he was having not a lights out year, but he was having a decent stellar year in Buffalo.
He's had I think he's had a really good year. And you're right, but so that defense takes another blow. But there's something about this Bills team, and we can get into the Jets in a second also. But there's something about this Bills team that everyone had them Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. And I think they're really good. And they've won a lot of great games this year. The game in Kansas City, you know. But they've also had those games where there's been more to be desired. The Lions game on Thanksgiving. They won, but there was more to be desired there. So I'm trying to figure out when they're going to not put it all together, because I think they're there. But they need, for me, like a really good stretch run entering the playoffs to go, you know what? We are this team everyone talked about. And I think they're really good. I think the bye is crucial for them if they're going to be that team just based off the injuries, but that's what I'm waiting for.
The Buffalo Bills, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Buffalo Bills are, like you said, Mike, we all were predicting Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. And right now it all points that way anyway. I mean, right now it really should be a KC Buffalo AFC Championship game, really is what it should come out to be, but we've seen stranger things happen. This Bills team reminds me of the 92-93 Bills more than any of the other three teams that made it to the Super Bowl in that fourth stretch, losing to the NFC East each time. I think that this team is very well balanced defensively and offensively. I think the Devin Singletary has had some hell of a resurgent year by giving more touches this year and more chances to run the ball, and has done an excellent job. Here comes the problem, and it's the same problem that's going on in Philadelphia and New York today. This is a divisional game that goes back to the beginning of divisions in football, and it's always a bloody matchup, and it's a hard play game. And we can say that about Bills, Dolphins, Bills, Patriots, whatever we want. This game today should have been, and really is, a deciding game for the New York Jets. A loss here would really hurt their chances and put them on the outside looking in if certain other teams win today. I think the Jets have to come out. I think Mike White has to control the ball, and the person who has to have a big day is Garrett Wilson.
It would definitely hurt their chances, especially in the division, because they've already lost both meetings to New England, and that they'll play the Dolphins the last week of the year. That'll close out the division for them. But to go 1 and they'd be 2 and 3 in the division going into that. So being 500, that'll hurt them divisional wise. But
exactly,
I think I just think they are good enough to be a playoff team. I don't know if they win this game because of how the Bills looking for revenge after what happened at MetLife. Yeah,
right.
But They need to punch the ball in the end zone. They were not able to do that last week. They were 1 for 6 in the red zone, I think it was.
Yeah, and I understood. Well, we understand that the Jets, you lose probably the most brightest part of your offense in Breesy Hall, the beginning of the year. He would have made such a difference going forward. I think he would have had a 1,500-yard running year if he doesn't get injured. And I think that has been the Jets' downfall because, look, Michael Carter has shown some flash in the pan, but he's not a good running back. He's not even a good blocking running back.
But what happened to James Robinson? Like, you trade for James Robinson.
The guy's, it's like been a ghost. This is a guy you trade for who we all thought was going to be getting 20 touches a game. He's seeing 2 or 3 touches a game, and that's about it.
And he's playing.
But he's playing, but they're also playing from behind every time. So when you're playing from behind that much, the running game becomes less important. And your running game is already less important because you don't have a decent running back.
Yeah, so there's the battle in the AFC East. You want to hear a crazy stat?
That Houston is actually won a game?
That is crazy, but this might be crazier. So Joe Burrow is undefeated against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, 3-0.
I was about to say, it's 3 short years.
Joe Burrow is also 0-4 against the Cleveland Browns.
That's sad. Oh, I'm gonna have to buy that.
We got Browns Bengals today, guys. That was the segue.
Looking at the Browns Bengals game today, I'm sorry I got caught on something.
It's okay.
Yeah. I really am not expecting much out of the Brownies. I don't expect Deshaun Watson to do any better than he performed last week. If you weren't watching last week, the Cleveland offense did nothing to win that game. The Cleveland defense did nothing to win that game. The Cleveland special teams did everything. They returned picks, picked up fumbles on kickoffs, whatever. So, I mean, they still won. I'm not even going to comment Cleveland. I mean, maybe Nick Chubb has 100 yards. That's about it. I see Cincinnati dominate this game and Jamar Chase go off with 10 receptions for 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns.
The Bengals got embarrassed Halloween night by the Browns. I think they're going to get their revenge today. You mentioned Jamar Chase. He's back. Joe Mixon's back this week off the concussion, so that'll help. I know.
Not that there was a problem with Samari Pirine. He did fine.
Oh, he was fantastic, and I hope he keeps getting touches.
I'm figuring that Joe Mixon just coming back. You have to figure he'll get somewhere between 5 and 10 touches today.
Yeah. So the Bengals are clicking again. So I'd be very wary. And look, I know it was his first game back in 700 days. Deshaun Watson was not good last week. And if they were playing any team not named the Houston Texans, the Browns probably lose that game.
And in my eyes, the Browns did lose that game because the offense nor the defense did anything. I mean, I believe Watson's final stats were 130 yards and 2 interceptions on the day. I think that was his final numbers.
Give me 1 second. I can look that up.
I mean,
I know the defense had the fumble return for a touchdown. They had a punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
his throws were all over the place. No, but yeah.
He was not accurate. No.
No. Mind you, it's been 2 years since the guy has played. If you're that concerned, I mean, I know you're paying him $250 million, if you're that concerned about him wearing with the rust off, sit him for the rest of this year, let him get healthy, and then bring him back next year. It's not like you're fighting for a Super Bowl spot.
So Watson was 12 of 22, 131 yards and an interception.
Okay.
So
And you're telling me that's worth $50 million a season?
I'm not telling you anything. That's what they did. So we got the Browns and the Bengals. The Browns are still alive in the playoff race. The Bengals and Ravens are fighting it out for the AFC North. Excuse me. And then Sunday night football tonight. Chris Collinsworth will tell you he loves everyone on both teams. Some random third string tight end. Mike, I got to tell you, I love this guy when I watch the film. He just jumps off the paper, jump off the screen. We got the Dolphins and the Chargers.
I wonder why Mike's happy.
Huh?
Is it because his favorite team is playing on Sunday Night Football?
Actually, no, I can't stand that they're playing on Sunday Night Football, to be perfectly honest with you. I cannot stand it. I would rather them 4:00 game on CBS. That would have been A-okay with me. But no, they got flexed in. And look, I just want to say this, and then we could dive into aspects of this. This is not about Tua Tagovailoa versus Justin Herbert. As much as the media and the broadcast is going to make it out to be. This is about two teams who are in the playoff race looking to avenge a bad loss last week. For the Dolphins, they lose to Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Oh, by the way, we'll get to that in a minute too. And for the Chargers, it's a bad loss to the Raiders, who we talked about earlier.
Right.
So one of these two has to bounce back.
Looking at these two teams today, I mean, of course, for the Miami side, you're looking Tyreek Hill and you're looking Jalen Waddle. And then for the Charger side, Mike Williams is active and back today. So they have Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and Mike Williams all available. This is what's going to make it a fair matchup, that both teams are healthy and they have all their players on the field. What I'm looking to see out of the Chargers is a lot more use of Austin Eckler here, as Miami's, I mean, not top rated against the pass, but they do pretty well. So I would do a lot of stuff with Eckler in the beginning, some short screens, and get that defense drawn in, and then you can start making your 10 and 20-yard plays to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. What we got to do on the other side of the ball, as for the Miami Dolphins, Tua, with the last name I can't pronounce, needs to come out and involve everybody. Look, Tyreek Hill is going to have a monstrous night, and I'm saying something around 15 receptions for over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Jalen Waddle has been injured on and off this year a little bit, so his numbers have dwindled. But I think this is the game where he comes back, and this two-headed wide receiver match that we all wanted to see this year is going to be at its healthiest right now.
I agree with what you said. Get everyone involved and give Tua some easy passes to ease him into this game. Quick slants, couple of screens, ease him in after his struggles last week, which were apparent. Other side of the ball for the Dolphins, this is a game why you got Bradley Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
You need the pass rush to get to Herbert, because he got rattled last week off the pass rush. So if the Dolphins can rush the passer, tonight. You say stop Eckler, that's a huge key. But if you get to Herbert, it doesn't matter.
Well,
So
Herbert's got one of the fastest releases in football that I have seen in a long time. That ball comes out of his hands lightning fast. So I couldn't agree with Mike more that pressure is going to be key tonight.
Yeah, he charges it up, man. So that's Sunday night. We didn't even get to this one, but we also have the Bucs and the Niners and Brock Purdy's first start.
After coming in for poor broken foot Jimmy Garoppolo, and he won last week.
He did. He was great.
He came in and he came in and played like a seasoned professional. That's the way I want to say it. He made a couple of mistakes like any other young kid would, but most of his time he was very, very accurate. I expect more of that from them tonight, but I also expect a big game from Christian McCaffrey. I think you need McCaffrey to control this game and be able to get Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle down the field a little bit. Is you got to draw those defensive backs in from Miami, and that's going to be one way to do it.
You say McCaffrey, I say Debo.
Okay.
I think Debo opens it up for McCaffrey and Ayuk and those other guys because Debo, McCaffrey, interchangeable with how they go running back, receiver. They can do both. By the way, Kyle Shanahan, I'm still waiting for the shotgun look with both McCaffrey and Debo in the backfield. That's what I'm waiting for. But I think Debo's the guy who opens it up for the Niners. Just easy stuff. For Tampa, I'm curious how the Tampa offensive line plays against the Niners defensive line.
I mean, this Niners defense is number one in the league for the right reason. They're that good.
And D'Amico Ryan should be a head coach next year.
I don't disagree with you on that after what he's done there.
He's done a great job. Nick Bosa looks like he's going to be a go.
Yes, he is active today as well.
He looks like he'll be active. So
the weather out in San Francisco is atrocious right now. It is heavy downpours. They have the field covered, but they're not saying what the condition of the field is going to be at game time. So it's going to be a sloppy game for a while until it dries up. So the field of streams is there.
It's raining on Tom's homecoming parade.
Right. And also, as for the Buccaneers, they are damaged goods from the quarterback all the way through the coaching staff. I don't think there's one player on that team that you can honestly say deserves to be in the playoffs. And there are players who have had good years, but we have to also accept that the NFC South is going to produce a playoff team with possible total wins of 7 games.
And with home field advantage
a home field advantage for a playoff game. That's got to change. It should go by record, not by division winner.
Remember, it happened with the Seahawks and the Saints.
Yes.
The Marshawn game. So it's a rule that it won't change, but it's definitely something that should be looked at. But
right,
I don't know. I'm with you. This division's horrible. Like the Saints have to find a way to win that game Monday night. They don't. Game over for them. But
well, we can pretty much say that we know where quarterbacks that will be drafted next year, where they're most likely going to be going. As I am predicting CJ Stroud to be with Houston. Also, hats off to Caleb Williams on winning the Heisman yesterday.
Max Duggan was robbed.
I'm reading over the numbers. I don't know.
I'm just making the argument for fun.
Oh, well, okay. I thought you were being
Because if I really wanted to make the argument, there's two guys who should have been nominated that weren't. Blake Corum, the running back from Michigan, should have been there. And Hendon Hooker, had he not gotten hurt, would have been there.
They mentioned that on the press. They mentioned about him being injured and hurting his chances. Look, congratulations, Caleb Williams. You know, do what you're gonna do. But I think CJ Stroud is your number one draft.
Well, Caleb Williams can't come out until at least next year. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Get better. But CJ Stroud is your number one draft pick to the Houston Texans. I'm calling it right now.
CJ Stroud, you're on the clock for the Houston Texans. So here are the playoff clinching scenarios for today before we wrap up. The Chiefs at Denver. The Chiefs can win the AFC West with a win and a Charger loss.
Okay.
So essentially a Chargers loss will give the Chiefs the AFC West.
Okay.
And the NFC, Philly, we mentioned, they win or tie, or the Niners and Seahawks both lose, they're in. The Minnesota Vikings win the NFC North today with a win or a tie against the Detroit Lions.
The funny thing is,
the Lions were favored.
Yes, still we were talking about that, but I think the Lions are going to beat Minnesota anyway.
All right, so this just in from ESPN. Brian Dable told Sal Saquon Barkley will play today. So Saquon is in and active.
On ESPN. Yes, he's active.
So
just because he's active doesn't mean he's going to play the entire game, but he'll be in there. He'll be in there to try to cause some trouble, but look for a lot of trick plays with him. As we know Saquon can throw the ball as he did to OBJ a bunch of times. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those type of plays at all either.
Yeah, so that'll do it for this edition of the Sunday Sideline Report on the Sports Insanity Network YouTube page. Check out all the podcasts, Anchor, Google, Spotify. Check us out, Twitter, at SInsaneReal. We're also on Facebook. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. And for Mark Oldhop, Sky Halpern, I am Mike Rifkin. Thank you for listening to the Sunday Sideline Report. We'll catch you next week, everyone. Enjoy the football and namaste.
End it.